Welcome to part 3 of our Saratoga 2018 season recap. It was about the middle of the meet. We caught up with NYRA President and CEO Chris Kay. Got a little update on what had happened thus far. Chris Kay, up next. Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised before the break, joined now by Chris Kay, CEO and President of NYRA. I saw Chris in the winner's circle yesterday. I said, come on over, let's do a halftime report. Welcome.
Great to be here, Seth. Thank you.
Happy to have you here. As I say, 21 days down, 19 still to go. Let's just talk a little bit. We'll hit on some subjects. I have some of the renovations that you've now had an opportunity to get some feedback on. I want to hit on that, some of the other events that are coming up. But as we are across the halfway point, just give us a little update. You and I were talking yesterday. Obviously, the weather a big factor. I can't remember summer as quirky as this.
No. We've had rain almost every day. We started out with a fantastic opening day as well as Saturday and Sunday. And then I think it's rained almost every day ever since. And sometimes the rains have been almost torrential. I mean, we had 2.5 inches one night, which is reminiscent of my days in Orlando, Florida. And of course, so the ground has been saturated. We've had to take a number of races off the turf just because it's for the safety of our participants. And hopefully we'll have warmer, sunnier days for the next 19.
Yeah, and you know, the racing has certainly held up very well. Monomoy Girl, Diversified, Mind Your Biscuits, Imperial Hint, Voodoo Song the other day, a great story. I mean, that horse just absolutely loves this track. And the people have turned out, and you know, we talk about it here when we're here in the morning. We look out from the tent, and it'll be overcast as it was when we did the handicapping show this morning. I'm looking out now. The sun is shining, so don't anticipate if you're home. If you're thinking of coming up to the track, come up. Because, again, as you say, it's kind of like Florida. There have been a bunch of days where it's a beautiful day, a shower blows through, and then it's beautiful again.
Exactly. And there's something here for everyone. You know, when it does rain, we've got plenty of area for cover, and there is a lot of fun. And so this is one of those things where I think also we have a certain amount of pent-up demand for people that have wanted to go to the track the last couple of weeks. Come out now because it should be great weather.
Yeah, I had some photos that the guys will put up from the backyard. Just a few days. Friday was a gorgeous day, and I think it was over 30,000 the paid attendance. And we get one of these gorgeous days, and people just show up. But as I say, the backyard, a nice crowd out there on the nice days. And again, even some of the other, like Whitney Day. It was a gorgeous day up until just 2 minutes before the Whitney, and then it rained, and then it was nice again right after that. It's been very quirky. But as I say, also wanted to touch on some of the renovations you made. You and I were talking in the winner's circle yesterday, and the guys are going to show some pictures from an area I hang out in, which is you go up that outside escalator. The top of that escalator, there are some sand machine betting windows there, and some folks sit on the benches. And I'm in the press box most of the day, but I like to get down and watch a few races and just see what the crowd's like. And so I hang out in that area a lot. First couple of days at the meet, and the folks can see with the pictures, I was there and I said, man, it's changed. It's really nice now. And it took me a while, which is a compliment, to figure out exactly the change, because it used to be an awning. And it took me a couple of days to remember that and realize that, which, again, is a compliment in how well this new fixture fits into the overall scheme of how the plant looked. But with this new roof, there's a practical aspect of it, and you'll touch on that. But just the aesthetic aspect with that old awning, there were the stanchions there in the middle. And again, that shot we had of, it's like, I call it a boulevard. It's just a really nice, you guys did a great job. And as I said, you can also talk to the practical aspect of it.
Right, so it is a beautifully new area. Because when we had those awnings, the red and white awnings would create a pink hue underneath it, which wasn't that great. And we had a stanchion, seemed like every 4 feet. Yeah. And so it was cluttered, and it just wasn't great. Now it's all wide open. We've put in all those new pillars, and it's been a much better experience for all of our fans, both in the club terrace as well as along the boulevard, as you said. The practical aspect is this. By virtue of doing what we did with these copper roofs, and by putting in 56 supporting beams underneath, we have extended the life of the building by an additional 50 years. So I don't know whether or not this building was good for another 50 or 75 years, but whatever it was good for last year, add 50 more to it. So it's kind of like this group is paying it forward. And I think it's going to be very significant so that this grand old building will be grand as it gets even older.
Yeah, and as I say, and as folks look at the pictures, a really great job, and it matches into the architecture that was already there. And talk a little bit, because one of the shots showed it, and you mentioned as well, that copper roofing,
yeah.
which is kind of extended down the
Right. So we started actually, I got here in July 2013. My first day, it was only 99 degrees, and there was that pink and white hue, if you will, under the upper level of the carousel, which now is called Easy Goer. We put a copper roof in there. Then we replaced the escalator. We put a copper roof over the new escalator. Now we've gone all the way across the back. And so you'll see over the next 4 or 5 years, it goes from that copper color you see right now to a dark brown. As you can see, if you look just beyond it in the left, you can see, right. Yeah. And then it'll eventually turn black, and then it'll turn greenish black. And it'll look like it's been here for 1,000,000 years.
Also want to mention, obviously we've all at this point, everybody who's clued in and seen the plans for what's coming out, where the tent is now and where the temporary seating is on the clubhouse turn. Really nice upgrade coming up there. When's that going to start, and will people be in it by opening day next year?
Well, it will start about a week after we leave here. You know, for about a week, we ship horses down, and so they're training. So we were mindful of the safety of our horses and our equine athletes, and as far as that. But they will start working very hard in the middle of September, and hopefully we can get the roof up before the winter storms hit, and then open it next July.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Again, if people haven't seen, check out the artist rendering. It looks like a really nice addition, nice permanent addition down there at the far end of on the clubhouse end of the facility. On the other end of the facility, though, and I'm excited to get what your feedback has been, because mine has been very good. The stretch, we've talked about it. I know you were in here with our colleague Brian Edo on the opening Saturday, and you know, you guys at the beginning of the meet were touting the stretch, which to me this was a home run. As a business decision, I mean, horse racing and the racetrack, people up here all hold it dear to their heart, and changes come hard, but when you look, that was just an underutilized couple of sections at the top, and to me, to then upgrade it and have it become kind of a destination for people up there, it's a beautiful addition. And as I say, over the past couple of weeks, I've now talked to people who've been over there, and they're raving about it. What's your feedback, Ben?
Same thing. People have used the phrase home run all the time, or bravo, bravo, bravo. So that's been great. And you're right, it was an area that wasn't used much, and it really appeals to a different kind of experience. If you don't wear a coat and tie, and it's wide open, you can move around. We've got this great video wall. We've got the bar area. You can sit at your seat and have the food delivered to you. The technology that's available on those tablets is incredible. You can watch the race with only a 1-second delay. You can go to Naira Bets and do all your wagering. You can go to Naira Now and be able to look at old races. So if you wanted to bet on a horse that raced a month ago, you can see what it looked like in that last race. If you don't want to watch the races all the time, we have 40 different television channels, from the news channels to sports channels to cartoon channels to home and garden TV. I mean, we've got it all there. And people like to move around. It's been great. We sold out those boxes pretty quickly. But one of the things I think people are realizing is one of the best deals are the premium seats. For $40, you've got a seat. You are right there at the most strategic place of the track as they make the turn and horses begin to make their move. And you've got a nice table next to you. After the race is over, you go up, hang out at the bar, hang out in the dining area, have fun. You can place your bets either at one of the many tellers dedicated to the people in the stretch, or on your phone, or at one of our self-service machines. Go back down, watch your race, do it all over again.
Yeah, as we've been showing the pictures, people will get an idea of just what the upgrade was. Again, a couple of sections at the top of the grandstand that just were totally underutilized. So from a business perspective, really a great idea. And I'll add, for folks who haven't walked down there, walk down, but better yet, you've now added Fridays and Saturdays. People can go down after 6:30, and for an hour or so, they can get in and take their own first-hand look.
Exactly. So we do have certain seats available on a daily sale basis. So that's the best way to check it out. But if those tickets are sold for the days you're at the track, on Friday and Saturday, starting at 6:30, come and we call it the last race showcase. And you can hang out. There's no admittance fee. We've got a disc jockey there. You can watch the last race here at Saratoga. You can stick around and watch some of the races in California. We have discounted beverage and food items it's a great party.
Yeah, great way to experience the stretch as well. Also wanted to touch on kind of a minor upgrade. Minor from the personal standpoint for you guys. I'm sure it was a major upgrade, but just the chairs and the box seats are all brand new.
I know, they are.
They're nice.
You know, I mean, I think those chairs were designed for all of us who have to wear suits to catch our jackets. I mean, I can't tell you how many times. So now we have it's an aluminum base, far better, more comfortable netting. It's an upgrade for all of us, including those of us who need a little bit of back support.
No, and they're nice looking too. And as I say, just on a personal aspect, it's kind of a little change. But for you, all the seats in all those boxes, it was a notable change. Also want to touch on, you mentioned when you were talking about TV, it got me to thinking. I just want to, once again, anytime I get anybody from your organization in who's involved, got to applaud what you do here at NYRA as far as the MSG Fox Sports shows. Those, daily horse racing on a sports channel for a couple of hours. I just think it's great for you guys, but I think it's great for the sport in general.
Thank you, Seth. I agree. Because this is a way for you to really understand the sport. The other channel, you go from one race to another race to another race, and if you don't know much about the game, you can't learn much that way. Well, we provide you with that 25 minutes to help educate you and hopefully entertain you. And we've had segments that show the difference between a sprinter and a long-distance runner and a sprinter and a long-distance horse. Those kind of things have been very helpful. And it really has helped because you can see where people are wagering more on those races that are televised. We started this only 2 years ago on Whitney weekend, and Fox has already entered into a 3-year extension, and MSG has already entered into a 3-year extension with us, so that this year alone, we will have 225 hours of live television broadcasting of our races.
And as I say, that's great for you guys, but it's great for the sport in general. And the features, as you mentioned, are very good. Rich Migliori did one on 4-Star Dave, who, of course, was a fan favorite up here for years and years. That was a lot of fun to watch. But those features, a lot of behind-the-scenes things, highly recommended. NBC, of course, in town for some weekends here as well. That's always beneficial. Also want to mention, speaking of high profile, you and I were talking as you came up, we wanted to hit on Travers weekend the night before the Red Jacket ceremony, and this year folks are going to want to turn out for that. Bob Baffert will get the Red Jacket.
Exactly. Bob Baffert is our inductee this year. Bob has had a great career, but let's just think of the last 4 years. 2015, American Pharoah wins the Triple Crown. 2016, he comes here with Arrogate, wins the Travers in record time. 2017, he comes to Travers and wins with West Coast. 2018, he wins the Triple Crown with Justify. That's a pretty damn good 4 years, and it's just part of a very great career. So we're looking forward to acknowledging Bob and all of his accomplishments on that Friday before Travers on Saturday. That's a day where we showcase the New York breds, and I think the induction ceremony will occur around the 4th or 5th race in the middle of the card.
Hardly need a day anymore to showcase the New York Reds. There, you have the Whitney 1-2, and then Voodoo Song on the weekend. Sue's Fortune also, so they're doing very well.
And the sales.
The sales was
record
very
sales. I mean, not only record for the amount, I think it was 14% higher than the record that was set last year, but also the average price was 20% higher, which is, again, another record. I got to tell you, I think Jeff Canizzo and his team is doing a great job, and I think we're all grateful because of what the New York Thoroughbred breeders are doing.
Yeah, we had Jeff in the other day and applauded him. In the middle, we hadn't even reached Voodoo Song and Sue's Fortune in the sale, and they were already knocking it out of the park. You mentioned Travers weekend. That all happens the day before Red Jacket and the New York Showcase, but we do have to mention the Travers itself. Obviously, people are going to want to show up. Justify, unfortunately, retired, but that means a nice full competitive field is kind of lining up for the Travers, and still some grandstand seats available, which are discounted if people buy ahead of time.
Correct. So you can buy them for $10. We are actually selling at a faster rate than we did last year. We have a few clubhouse general admissions left, but primarily it's going to be grandstand general admission. Buy them now. All the reserve seats are gone. Almost all the clubhouse general admission are gone. So buy them now, and they're going, as I said, at a faster rate than last year. You buy them now, it's cost you $10. I think it's day of, it's $15. So this is the time to buy. I wish I could tell you I'm going to guarantee it won't rain that day.
It's got to turn around at some point, though.
Yeah,
so,
but it's going to be a great day of racing. Yeah. And in the Travers itself, we may have a filly from Canada.
Yep.
We're going to have a horse from the UK, from Europe in Gronkowski. We're going to have the winner of the Haskell. it's going to be a great field.
Yeah, we were up at Woodbine covering the Queen's Plate and saw Wonder Gadot win up there, and Mark Cassidy said she likes a mile and a quarter, so given the situation with Justify being retired, he's going to take that shot potentially in the Travers. I think it's going to be a really fun race, and certainly, again, take advantage of buying early and getting the discount. Just before we let you go, I want to touch on a topic that is important, again, just to the industry as a whole, because when New York racing is healthy, everybody benefits, and one of the things you guys are looking at in the future, and again, maybe some legislative help is necessary. We've talked about it before. Nighttime racing in New York, it's been tried at some other venues, and the game plan there, as I say, to help the industry as a whole, if you can move to nighttime racing for a few occasional opportunities during the year, you have the potential to bring in new people.
Exactly. When you think about it, baseball, they don't have all their games in the daytime because they want to attract new generations of fans. What are new generations of fans doing during the daytime? They're at work. And so what we want to do is what every other sport does, have our events at night. And frankly, we think it's the best way to create new generations of fans. We're going to have a fantastic new Belmont Park someday. We're only talking about doing this at Belmont, not here at Saratoga. And it would be good for everyone. I was so appreciative that the governor supported it. I was appreciative that the Senate supported it. And I'm looking forward to the day when it can be supported by the Assembly. It doesn't hurt anyone. It helps everyone. And it gives people a choice they currently don't have. So I'm hopeful that in the end, we'll get a law passed so that just like every other sport, horse racing can be made available at night for new generations of fans.
Yeah, we'll keep our eyes on Albany and hope that goes through because, as I say, that's good for everybody. More fans in the game, the better it is for all of us on the horse racing game. Chris, appreciate the visit. And again, congratulations on a good start to the meet. The weather's been a little funny, but as I say, the renovations are great. I've gotten great feedback myself, and it sounds like you have as well on a lot of the upgrades and some upgrades still to come. But hopefully we'll check in again in about 3 weeks, and all will be good.
All will be good. We won't be soggy.
There you go. Chris Kay, President and CEO of the New York Racing Association. Thanks to Chris Kay for taking time to visit us. Again, about the middle of the meet to give a little recap as to what had happened up to that point. Sunday morning's always fun with Steve Bick and Loose on the Lead, and one Sunday morning, a second visit from Marshall Graham. We talked to him last year, a couple of years ago. Really interesting take on handicapping and the way the game plays number-wise. He's an economics professor, but owns racehorses and plays the game as well. Marshall Graham up next. Welcome back to Loose on the Lead. Seth Merrill and Steve Bick, and welcome back to Marshall Graham. We had him on a couple of years ago.
Yeah, last year. I was on here
Was it
last
year?
year. Yeah,
Okay.
last year.
Marshall, professor of economics at Rhodes.
At Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee.
Also a horse owner, and again, we talked a little bit about the symposium last year, where we was talking a little bit about some of the economics of horse racing. It was featured in some of the post symposium coverage, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But I wanted to pull up a couple of weeks ago, 10 Strike Racing as a horse owner, just July 14th down at Indiana Grand, little stakes race. Dot Matrix, the number 9 horse, we're going to watch a win. I had Liz Crow on with me the other day, and I asked her, are we going to see Dot up here? Because Dot Matrix, of course, on the PPs, has a Saratoga win. She said there's kind of nothing in the book really for Dot Matrix up here, unfortunately. But this was a pretty nice win down at Indiana Grand the other
black
day.
And purple on the rail.
Yeah, he made a nice move up the rail. I really thought when Flo let all those horses come up on him, we were in a little bit of trouble, but then the horse explodes. This has been a fun horse. I bred the horse. It's out of the first horse I ever bought. I claimed this mare for $5,000 at Parks. Her name was Aunt Dot Dot. Kind of didn't know what I was doing. Raced her a few times. Bred her to Giacomo, and then the Successful Appeal. And on the 4th breeding, I bred her to Freud. Made her part of the New York program, and we've had a lot of fun. He won at Saratoga. Dot Matrix won at Saratoga last year, and then because of winter racing, we moved over to Brad Cox to get on the fairgrounds turf, and the horses really thrived. One is A other than, 2 other than, 3 other than. Really ran huge at Keeneland, and we came up to New York, butted heads with the offering playing a tough Chad Brown in the Kingston, and decided to go off and get him try to get a stakes win elsewhere. Worried, especially at Saratoga. Chad's got a couple New York breds that may just be a touch classier. And so we thought, well, there are a lot of other races in the country, and even though he's New York bred and I would get New York Breeders' Awards, we decided to give him a shot elsewhere. So he won in Indiana, which is huge, an open stakes win for a horse I bred, and then we're going to go to West Virginia. So we'll be in a race at Mountaineer next weekend.
Very good.
That's that funny card that includes things like the House Speaker sprint race and the delegate cup and all that. They got virtually everything from the State House in West Virginia is on that card underneath the West Virginia Derby. It's pretty funny.
We're excited about going there, and the good money, and hopefully a race that we'll fit really well into. So.
Well, the Grade 1 winner, too, it needs to be discussed. Long on value, your first Grade 1 win, we watched yesterday as Louis Carvajal and Ray Mamone got their first with Imperial Hint, but the long on value win, you could really, when you know somebody and you can really tell that it was just so special to you. To get that kind of a breakthrough win, and really you haven't been out there for all that long. I mean, it's not instant success, but it came quickly.
Yeah, well, it's very exciting. I mean, I appreciate the great work Liz Crow did in buying the horse, and the work Brad Cox has done with the horse as well. I really remember going through the Keeneland November sale, thinking about buying some of these horses off the racetrack, and I assumed he would be way out of our price range. I kind of, in my mind, I'd followed him. He was always a talented horse. I assumed that he would be 250, 300. So never in a million years did we think he'd fall to a price of 100,000. So we've got a great set of partners. A lot of my gambling buddies are involved. Pete Fornatel, Jonathan Kitchen, Nick Tamaro, Joe Metka, plus some of our core partners. It's a horse that we could have offered to everybody, and they would have taken. He's been a lot of fun, and we're excited because he'll run next weekend in the Troy. Which is shaping up to be a nice race. So.
Well, yeah, there's also the clamoring going on for him to face off against the Matisses, pay the price, the streaking turf sprinter from Florida.
Yeah, that would be fun. I'd worry a little bit about setting a distance up in the pace scenario we get in a match race, but it would be that would be fun to organize. I mean, we're not Breeders' Cup nominated, so maybe that's the spot to go.
The Contest Players' Cup.
Exactly. We can set something up.
Well done. Speaking of players, let's morph into a conversation. Had you on the radio the other day, really well received. And for those that follow Marshall or are on Twitter and haven't followed, he's a terrific follow under Truxton, Truxton Stables. And Marshall's economic background has contributed to any number of discussions about the horse playing landscape and the economics of horseplay. And the topic that you really have brought focus to this spring is the breakage issue. And we kicked it around earlier this week on radio. I wanted you to do it here as well. New York was ahead of the curve when Steve Christ was at NYRA, and he got breakage down to a dime. This era, it feels, with the ADW getting more and more of a lion's share of the play, it feels like there's no need for breakage anymore. And putting that lost money back in the hands of the players will increase churn. There's nothing but positives.
I agree. I mean, it's too long. We're in the 21st century now. There's no reason that we should be rounding down to the nearest dime per dollar. I use this example of Justify in the Preakness should have paid $2.89, but they rounded down to $2.80 to win. Now let's think about what that means. So you bet $2 to win on Justify, you win 80 cents, right? You should have won 89 cents. So that's 9 cents, right, that you're losing out on. 9 cents compared to 80 cents, that's almost 10% of your bet, right? And so it increases the takeout 2 to 3%. It really hurts the win, place, and show pool. It makes the place and show pool almost unplayable, right? And so, you may think to yourself, well, wait a minute, that's only 9 cents that you lose. But a lot of players, betting 200 to win, 2,000 to win, that money starts to add up. And the win, place, and show pools are big pools where people churn, they bet big. They're pools that we would like to get more novice players, recreational players more involved with, because, the pick 3, pick 4 tries and supers are really tough for a casual player. But if we made the show pool and the place pool more acceptable to play in, newcomers would churn more. They would have an incentive to learn more about the game, have more of an opportunity to win, and we need to create at least the illusion of winning, right? Someone needs to come to the track, have a good time, right, and want to learn more about the game. That's hard to do if they're in the wrong pools. And so if we got rid of breakage, if we modernized, it would make those pools much more appetizing.
And it really is an anachronism, because now with the fractional bets, you will see payoffs to the pennies in some of those dime wagers or whatnot. So why isn't it across the board?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the dime supers pay to the penny, so there's no reason we shouldn't again pay to the penny on all wagers. I understand maybe the concerns on track, but again,
well,
we
Steve
do
and I were
it
talking
already.
about this morning with a customer yesterday who was talking about that. And yeah, you can see it on track because of just the practicality of it. But the account wagering should pay to the penny now, just because, as I say, otherwise it's a complete anachronism.
Well, and a lot of people bet with vouchers or cards, and even some of these racetracks might consider rounding up because they're making such a big margin on an on-track customer. There are a lot of different ways that we can handle it, but we need to move into the 21st century, and this is one of the things that needs to change.
I want to provide the background, because I'm sure that there's people that don't really even understand what we're referring to when it comes to breakage and the payouts and how it evolved. So lay out exactly where that is, and we're not. I don't want to make it out that breakage, because breakage basically is then split typically between the state and the racing organization. A lot of times that breakage money does go to things like backstretch, it goes to capital improvement, it'll go in some cases to breeding funds. So it's not as if that money is just siphoned off and out into the ether and into, although some states probably do use it in general fund. Like uncashed tickets. At the end of the year, uncashed tickets usually go back to the state as general fund money. But this particular topic would be a win-win-win for everybody involved.
No, I agree. And again, all it really is the rounding down to the nearest dime per dollar at your standard racetrack. So again, it could go as far as you should be able to win $2.99 on a show wager, and it's rounded down to $2.80. Now, New York, under Steve Christ about 30 years ago, changed the rounding to the nearest nickel per dollar. They actually made it revenue neutral, so it rounds down to the nearest quarter for bigger long shot wagers, but for short price horses, your increments are 210, 220, 230, 240, which is opposed to most tracks, which are 210, 220, 240, 260, 280. And so all these things, at least in terms of short price win horses, place horses, and show horses, make them very unattractive to play. And so look, there are many great things about our game. There are many things that need to be fixed, but I think this is a fix that can be made. And let me be clear, there will always be breakage, right? You can't round down the fractions of pennies, but why not, instead of 289 to 280, why not 289 down to 288 or 144 per dollar? Round down to the nearest penny. I get what you're saying about the fact that a lot of the money is used to fund different things, but that could come elsewhere. Again, there would be some shifting around of the way rebates are done.
But as you say too, the churn may then mitigate that.
Exactly.
So the tracks would get more money that they could give to these programs that are
Exactly.
getting money from breakage now.
No, exactly, and that's very true. That's what we hope. And again, if I go play blackjack as a novice player, I may win 40% of the time. You bring a newcomer to the horse track, right, and you put them in the super pool, right, they're going to lose most of the time. But if you put them in the place and show pool, you make some win wagers, they're going to win a few times, come back, want to learn more about our great game. They may become hardcore players like us down the road, and that's what we're looking for.
And that's something that you bring it up, and it reminds me, every year I'll bring family members or some people who are not familiar with the track, and I'll say, I'll try an exactor, and they'll jump into the show pool, and we forget. They're thrilled if they get $2.60. And so, yeah, if they add a little bit more money to their wagers every time, again, they have a little more money to play, and more chances to get more engaged with the game.
And that's how I sort of really thought about this more. As I was playing, Oaklawn has a 10% takeout on track for their show wagers, and so I was playing these show parlays, which were a blast. I'd start with $20 and I would build it up, and if I lost at the end of the day, I'd only be down 20, but I was realizing I was churning thousands of dollars playing the show bet parlay, right? And again, when people bet the place and show, they're betting in bigger increments, right? And it really can increase turn. And again, people's chances at winning. And again, you could be picking colors or playing jockeys and have a good shot of having at least, long run, if you did that, nothing but that, you're going to lose. But on any given day for a recreational player, they're going to have fun and then maybe investigate our game more. And that's, again, we need to get people into the game, and that's the place to start.
Marshall, yesterday had the pleasure of meeting your father, Senator Phil Graham, and I asked, do you like the track? And the answer was a resounding no. And he said he has no explanation for why you love it so much. But you did explain how you got into it. And we touched on this with you last time we were together. And the course that you teach at Rhodes, which in some cases is probably introducing horse racing and the finances and the problem-solving skill elements. And it prompted a conversation very quickly that we had yesterday. The industry is constantly looking for ways to bring the game to a wider audience. And the one thing that we don't seem, I don't sense that we do a good job at all, is reaching out to the group of people out there that enjoy mathematics, that enjoy problem solving. And you think of the Sudoku craze, which was very much a numerical and an equation. There are people out there that don't even know that they would enjoy this for the same reason that you said you got interested in as a kid, growing up in the Washington, D.C. area, looking at not the box scores, but the agate for racing results, and then figuring out there's time involved, there's dollars and cents involved, there's equations, and there's the problem-solving skill set.
Yeah, so first off, back to my dad, he finds it fascinating that my passion for the sport. So he enjoyed his day. He had a great day at the races. He enjoyed the big crowd. Who could not enjoy yesterday at Saratoga? But he does. It's bizarre to him that I fell head over heels for this sport, where I came at it with no introduction. I mean, I never got taken to the racetrack. It was totally foreign to me. But when I was growing up, I grew up in Washington, D.C. We had a district. We didn't have we had 3 television stations. Bizarrely, D.C. did not have cable television until 1989, and that's cable television was largely a rural thing. So my access to sports was the 6 o'clock news and the sports page. Well, the sports page had a huge section on horse racing, and I was fascinated by it. I started reading Andy Beyer because he was the writer, and it was all about numbers. And I do agree that often we're more worried about our sport being too complicated, as opposed to trying to draw people into what makes it more interesting, especially numbers people look at. A lot of kids fall for baseball because of the statistics. I fell for horse racing, right? And horse racing is such a better sport than baseball. You can be actively involved, right? For a minute and 12 seconds or to 2 minutes, I'm actively involved with the horse. I own that horse for that brief amount of time and can make a decision and see if I'm right or wrong. And I did all sorts of experiments and tinkering, and I found that in my class, that students were interested, especially nowadays, these younger kids are interested in gambling, or what I call finding value. They're interested in problem solving. They really like learning more about horse racing. They find it very unique, something they know nothing about. But when you become a horse racing fan, it's kind of like joining a cult, right? And you get immersed in it. And there's I taught a 7-week course, had 35 students, which for Rhodes is a large number of students. It's a small liberal arts college in Memphis, Tennessee. And again, they really enjoyed it. And in 7 weeks, we could really only scratch the surface, right? There's, what we acquire in studying racing takes a long time to learn. And, maybe part of it is that if we look at sort of standard broadcasts of racing, there's a lot of focus on the celebrity and the fandom and the making of a mint julep, and not enough on the horses themselves and the jockeys on the handicapping. If you turn on football, right, they talk about the game.
It's all technical,
and it's a complicated game, right? We think about it because we've grown up watching it. Football's complicated. They don't dumb it down for us, and I believe you can do both in a broadcast, right?
The brain teaser aspect is what I love about the game. As a kid, I love those brain teasers. The train leaves from Chicago, a train leaves from New York. Who's sitting in the third seat in the coach section, kind of thing. And to me, horse racing is that kind of a similar adult angle where you try to solve the puzzle. Then a minute and a half later, you know whether you're right or wrong, and they pay you if you're right, which is beautiful. Coming from an economics angle, as you handicap, what are the factors you look at when you handicap?
Oh, I tend to be a generalist. I look at a lot of different things. If sort of in a typical race, I tend to be a class handicapper, and that comes from being an owner, right? So I look at which horses have run against the best fields in the past. I think, in part, speed figures, while great and while a great starting point, have become somewhat overvalued. So I'm often looking for a horse that's run a little bit slower but may have excuses. But again, probably a class handicapper first. But I like to use all different methods. And in my class, I focused on speed handicapping. We modeled bias. We modeled pace. We talked about Sarton method. We did a lot of different things that again, just scratched the surface of there's so many different aspects you can use to approach racing. And that's another wonderful thing about handicapping is there's so many different ways to approach it, and no one way is right. And I even tell people who come to the track for the first time might feel overwhelmed, is you can come to the track, pick jockeys, pick the horse that you like, how they look in the paddock, and you're not necessarily marginally going to be worse off than someone who thinks they know everything, right? And so, so I enjoy that part of the game. So many different ways to approach it.
Important question. Favorite rib joint in Memphis?
Oh, I like Central Barbecue.
Nice.
So Central Barbecue across from the Liberty Bowl, about a mile away from where I live. Excellent stuff. But you can't go wrong. There are a lot of different places. Memphis barbecue, Gus's fried chicken. A lot that's appealing about eating in Memphis, but not a lot health-wise.
No. Although, I'll tell you what, the dining scene in Memphis has gotten...
Oh, it's gotten a lot better.
Unbelievable.
It's gotten a lot better. No, Memphis has come a long way in the last decade, and again, even outside of the food that will kill you in a couple weeks. So,
always a pleasure to have you join us, and Marshall Graham has been just an absolutely invaluable addition to the landscape of the game, whether it's with 10 Strike, and how can they find more information about 10 Strike?
Well, there's 10strikeracing.com. You can follow me on Twitter at truxtonstables.com. It's my old stable name. 10 Strike, at 10 Strike Racing, at Truxton Stables. Those are my Twitter handle and 10 Strike Racing's Twitter handle. And we have Zanati today in the Monmouth Cup. Hopefully we get a nice trip and get a win today, maybe.
Outstanding.
Jeff, put the course online too. I want to sit down on the course.
Oh yeah, well, I'm
That's
teaching
a good
it
idea.
spring of 2019. So come on the roads and we'll have a lot of fun.
All right, we're going to wrap things up for this edition of Loose on the Lead. We thank Brian had a chance to catch up with Brad Cox. Always a lot of fun to talk to him. Again, one of the young up-and-coming trainers, but this year with Monomoy Girl making a lot of noise on the Grade 1 scene. Brad Cox, next.
My next guest is back to the horseman side of things, and we bring in Brad Cox. Brad, I appreciate you joining us here today, the trainer of Monomoy Girl, who is going to be favored tomorrow in the Coaching Club America Oaks, and without a doubt, Brad, the undisputed leader in the 3-year-old filly division. So congratulations on the job you've done with her, and welcome.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Exciting time here at Saratoga. But first, before we get into Monomoy Girl and the development of her, you've been in this game for quite a while. I think at least maybe up here in Saratoga, you're a relatively new face on the scene, and I think she certainly brought you to a national scene. But growing up right in Louisville, Kentucky, just minutes from the track basically, and didn't necessarily start out as a guy that wanted to get into racing, but as it happens quite a bit, it got steeped in you pretty quickly.
Yeah, when you get bit by the bug, you're screwed. You're
Yeah.
stuck. So you can't get out once you're in. But no, obviously Louisville's home for me.
Sure.
It's home base, and that's where our home base is. But we've been coming to Saratoga for 5 years. Really enjoy it. It's top-notch racing, probably the best meet in the country. So we try to come in here and be effective.
Started out basically your first, call it big break, working for Dallas Stewart, and then talk a little bit about your path to where you are today. Obviously out on your own, coming up through the ranks. How did you get here today?
Well, I started like most people, started
Right.
just walking horses of the morning, and then onto a groom, then a foreman. I think at a groom/foreman position with Jimmy Baker, which was a New York assistant for Sugar Gage and David Whiteley for a long time. So learned a lot with those guys, Jimmy Baker, and then on to Dallas, where I spent nearly 5 years with him, and that was a very educational experience, and learned a lot along the way. And then took the jump around 2005.
Right.
And it was a struggle for a long time. Spending winters at Turfway Park, and obviously being based in Louisville, that was my home, Churchill, and just took a while to get going, and you live and you learn. And,
Yeah.
This is a game where it seems like you're constantly learning things. Trying to figure each individual horse
Sure.
out, and try to tailor a
How-
program toward them.
How many did you start out with?
Oh.
I'm sure it was very hands-on back then, I would think.
Absolutely. I was one cooling the horses. It's almost like when you start training, you go back to doing what you first started,
Right.
because you're obviously trying to save money and walk horses yourself. I mean, you're able to do that when you start out, because it depends on how many you start with. But I think I started with like 3 or 4, and then I think after a few months we may have got up to like 16 or 17, and it's kind of a trickle down effect, or not. Shouldn't say trickle down effect, but the numbers kind of go up and down. They went up and down for a long time.
Right. I've always said, we do this handicappers report before we do this show, and picking races here at Saratoga, and you kind of arrived here 3 or 4 years ago. Did you say 5th year here, I believe?
Yes, fifth
Okay.
summer.
So,
Yes.
and I said, I made this comparison because I think a lot of people weren't familiar with Brad Cox, because you were more Midwest, and then you came up here, and I think you had, you went like 3 for 11 that first maybe breakthrough meet, or you won some races. And I made the comparison that you were very similar to Chad Brown in that you were doing everything really well, but I think you needed that one horse for people to really say, wow, this guy knows what he's doing, and he's on his way. Has Monomoy Girl, as we kind of take to the present now, and a multiple Grade 1 winner, 1 year first Grade 1 with her, is she the horse that kind of has brought you to the national level, whereas maybe you were more, obviously well known in the Midwest? You mentioned Kentucky. Is she now the horse that has brought you to the national level?
Well, yeah, she's obviously the most accomplished horse we've had, and yeah, probably put us on more of a national stage, as opposed to, like you said before, her being more of a regional Midwest, maybe a little East Coast. But without a doubt, she's definitely been a horse that's put us on a national stage, and herself on a national stage. And like, I was reading something the other day, like if she's able to get a victory on Sunday, and she's going to be possibly, it's 4 Grade 1s as a 3-year-old filly.
Right.
If she can get it done, I mean, it would be amazing a feat, accomplishment. Maybe go down as one of the better 3-year-old fillies we've had.
Yeah, for sure.
In a while.
Started out 3 for 3, and then lost her only race by a neck, mind you, too. Obviously, you've had her since the start. Did she tout herself as this kind of horse? You've been around horses for a long time. You've been around a lot of good horses, Dallas, through the years. A lot of people, you talk to, say you just know. They separate themselves. You get Monomoy Girl. Did she do that?
Not in the beginning.
Not in the beginning. You're almost like laughing a little bit.
Yeah,
right?
because I've been asked that question a lot. And then, obviously this group of 2-year-olds has come in, and, I just keep in mind, like, she did not separate herself. She was very green, looked at a lot of things. But, right before she run into Rags to Riches, we had worked her with some decent fillies. I think it was back in October of her 2-year-old year. And she worked really, really well, and then obviously she performed the way she did in the Rags to Riches, and that's when we really started taking notice. And I mean, obviously we took notice, but it's like, this could be a really good filly. Obviously her speed figures come back really fast from the Rags to Riches, and we thought, and we thought there could be some, I mean, we just really started her on the grass just because I wanted to run her long. She
Right.
wasn't really fast out of the gate, so I thought, if I run her 3/4 on the dirt,
Sure.
she's going to get left.
Right.
I'd like, and she didn't break great first time, so, it wasn't so much we thought she needed the grass, it was more of a distance thing.
Okay.
We're starting her long.
Yeah, I think you see that a lot. You see horses like that at Ellis. They've got the 2-turn races
Yes.
there. You see that a lot. So now you end 2017, obviously, with what you think is one of the better 2-year-old fillies. And then I would assume, in the perfect world, you plot backwards to the Kentucky Oaks. And as it rarely happens in racing, you really didn't miss a beat on the way there. You aired in the Ashland, your first grade one win as a trainer. We're going to bring up footage of the Kentucky Oaks. So she goes to the Kentucky Oaks, wasn't favored. A mile and an eighth at Churchill Downs can be pretty demanding at this time of the year. Any concerns about it? Obviously, she was proven very tactical, be placed wherever. I thought this was a very, very game performance, Brad, to dig down Wonder Gadot. We know she's a pretty classy filly.
Yeah, without a doubt, it's a big time performance for her to dig back in, and then get her head in front. And there was a lot made of her breaking from the 14 hole going into the race, but it's like I told someone the other day. I was telling Dave Grinning from DRF that I haven't heard a whole lot about. Hey, I hear some things about some other horses in the race having some trouble trips, and I thought, she won this race from the 14 hole.
Right.
So it was wide both turns, or wide going into the first turn, going a mile and an eighth for the first time. So that was a huge performance. She come out of it in good order. Obviously onto the Acorn, but as you said earlier, at the end of last year, we thought, this could be the best 3-year-old filly in the country, and everything just went really well with her. I mean, she has not missed a beat. I mean, she's not missed a work. Kind of mapped out a plan for her going into the Rachel Alexandra, and she's just checked off all the boxes and asked everything. She's done everything we've asked of her. So she's just a very solid filly that shows up and gives you what she's got week in, week out.
I'm sure winning the Ashland, a very historic race in and of itself at Keeneland, was a big deal, but as a guy that was running around Churchill Downs as a younger guy, and to win the Kentucky Oaks at his home track, it had to be a phenomenal feeling.
Yeah, it was, and it was the biggest accomplishment we've had to date, and very proud of the filly and what she accomplished. And it's like I told someone the other day, it was a very competitive race. I mean, she had to dig down to win. It was an exciting race. It wasn't if she turned for home by 5 and she won by 10.
And wasn't even favored in the race, so I think that shows how just competitive it was.
Exactly. It was a very solid group of fillies, and as far as Mark Cassie's filly goes, I mean, I watched her train going into that race that week, and she was training extremely well. And I thought to myself, I said, this filly's going to be tough. I mean, she was just on the bridle, galloping aggressively every day and looked great and moving extremely well, and she's obviously come back to win the Queen's Plate. So the race has obviously been a key race, and it was a solid group of fillies.
We'll bring up the stretch run of the Acorn as well, and just speaks to her versatility to cut back from a 2-turn 9-furlong race at Churchill Downs to what can be a very snappy 1-turn mile at Belmont Park, and another just really monster performance. Just keeps doing it too. It's hard to keep running huge races, but as we're going to see here, as she comes off the far turn, and I had a lot of respect for Talk Her to me as well, and she's a pretty nice filly. Your gal once again does it impressively.
Yeah, big performance here. Florent did a good job of just kind of letting the fillies in front just kind of soften each other up just a little bit. He set in a good spot. Give this filly that runs second a good bit of weight that day. I think we're giving her 8 pounds. Which was big. This filly, that's obviously just the second race around 1 turn. She obviously shown she can handle that with the race being the the Rags to Riches at Churchill, the 2-year-old. So we thought that, we didn't think there would be any negative with the 1-turn mile. We actually like that. So I think she's a filly that would like Belmont, or does like Belmont, and would handle it. So it worked out well.
That brings us to tomorrow. You beat Midnight Bijou, who was the favorite in the Kentucky Oaks, but in the What Have You Done For Me Lately world of racing, you got to do it again tomorrow, and she looked really good, as I'm sure you saw, winning the Mother Goose first start for Steve Asmussen. I don't want to call it a match race tomorrow, but there's only 5. You're clearly the 2 best. How do you see it shaping up? Just looking at it on paper, being outside her, I think gives you an edge. Do you envision any kind of trip, or let it fall as it may?
It's probably play the break.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously 2 good jocks, Mike Smith and Florent. It's a very, very nice filly for Jeff Bloom. Wish him luck. I've got a couple horses for Jeff back in Kentucky, and she's obviously in a great camp with Asmussen. She's a nice filly. She performed extremely well, as everyone saw in the Mother Goose, and I'm sure she's set up for a big effort tomorrow. Obviously we'll see what happens with the track and the weather. That may play a little bit of a role as to how aggressive we want to be out of the gate, but just kind of see how what happens with the weather, the track condition, and how it's playing, and how wet it is, and just kind of talk about it.
And as Brad is kind of hinting at it is supposed to rain overnight. I think maybe as race day comes tomorrow, it might not be too bad. You have yet to race over a wet track. Any concerns as she trained over it in the morning? Do you worry about things like that, or is it out of your control?
Well, it's out of my control, first of all, right. So I don't worry about it. I honestly, this filly's honest. I mean, she's run on the dirt, or the turf, which sometimes indicates a horse may take to a wet track, for what that's worth. She's a filly that's shipped to several tracks. It's not like, I mean, she's won at the fairgrounds, Keeneland, Churchill, Belmont, Indiana. So I mean, she gives you what she's got, and I also like that, obviously wet track, but she's a filly that has speed. I mean, those horses, once again, speed seems to be good on a wet track. So, if we were a closer, it might be an issue. But no, I don't really think it'll play a big role in getting a good performance out of her.
One more before you go. I know you're going to school one here shortly. I would think she's opened a lot of doors for you. I mean, I saw you had a horse from Juddmonte at Keeneland. Is this the one that has really given you new clients, new eyes on your stable, and people are really taking notice?
Well, sure. I mean, we picked up Juddmonte last fall. It's been a good run with it. Those guys really appreciate the opportunity they've given us, and but yeah, no, it's definitely given us an opportunity to pick up. She's definitely given us an opportunity to pick up, top clients and quality horses, and it's it can only be a positive when you have a filly like this.
How many do you have up here this summer?
We have 24 in Oklahoma, 10 on the market.
Can you give me a 2-year-old that we should be looking for?
I can't yet.
Okay.
I wish I could, but I can't make one up right now.
All right, we'll take a look.
Tight on those.
All right, I appreciate it. Brad Cox, ladies and gentlemen, he's going to have the favorite tomorrow, Monomoy Girl, coaching Club America Oaks. Without a doubt, the top 3-year-old filly in the country. Brad, I appreciate you taking time to stop over, and best of luck as well.
Longtime fixture on the New York racing scene, Rick Violet. Always fun to have Rick come in and talk a little New York racing and much, much more. He's next.
We're back from the break, and we're laughing because Teresa Gennaro is off camera, and of course, when Teresa's around, you talk kittens. We had a kitten show up on our doorstep a week ago Saturday. Now adopted, known as Bandit. Siaka, by his barn, there's a kitten that has been adopted by the squirrels and is playing with squirrels. It's dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria, exactly. There was mass hysteria yesterday in advance of the Diversify winning the Whitney, and what I said to Ralph Evans, what a great addition to the trophy case, not just for him, but for you, Rick. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It was a pretty cool day.
There was some, obviously, there was some tumult and the delay. Different horses have to deal with that. They never unsaddled. They didn't.
Unfortunately,
Talk a little bit about the atmosphere coming in. We'll talk about the backstory and even the decision to run in a minute, but talk about what was kind of a surreal setting.
It was actually from beginning to end. I mean, from getting saddled up to the delay, the black sky, the thunder, the lightning, all the way to the rainbow after the winner ceremony. So it was very surreal.
The track, the decision.
Is that correct English, Teresa? Very surreal. Is that a phrase?
It works. The decision, obviously, by Glenn Kozak to seal the track. I mean, they knew that the storm was coming, and when the sealing of the track occurred, to a lot of degree, benefited you. No,
no doubt. Because the biggest thing I was concerned. I thought the inside of the racetrack was not as fast as the outside, and speed wasn't being favored at all. I mean, even the test that race before, the Klaravich was resolute in the middle of the racetrack to get up, and it seemed that 5 or 6 path up the lane was the best place to be. So we were concerned about it when they announced that they were sealing it, and then the rains came. everybody was frustrated with the delay, but I really thought that kind of leveled the playing field a little bit.
What do you do with the delay? I'm just curious, the nuts and bolts, because this is an unusual situation, and we always talk about these horses as being creatures of habit. So how do you handle that and monitor them in a situation like that?
You know, everybody's a little bit different. If they're standing still in the stall and just kind of like propped up on one hind leg and chilled out, that's the best case scenario. We went from there to he started kicking the walls, so you try to move them. It's a little claustrophobic in there with horses going almost hip to hip, passing each other in there, and the people trying to get out of the rain. Diversify can get pretty violent kicking. I mean, he's like a piston. It could be lethal. And there was one gentleman that almost got hurt. So we tried to avoid getting people hurt, getting him hurt, because he was nailing the stall. He was making a lot of noise a lot of times. So we'd go outside and walk around the tree, and you're worried about, we had the tack on for an hour. And so that was frustrating. And then they go through kind of some chemical, biological transformation. You get the tack on, they get the adrenaline going, the endorphins get flowing, get a little wet, and then the longer you go, that kind of gets turned off. And some horses don't rehabilitate. All of a sudden, they don't flip the switch back on 20 minutes later and start this all over, and you don't know what's going to happen until it happens. And fortunately, the switch went back on, and we handled it pretty well.
Should we jump in and take a look at the replay? We'll pick it up. We're going to watch the entire replay here, so just kind of take us through as we open the gate and go around the track. I was standing in the winner's circle, and probably the end of the backstretch, as he kind of opened up an extra length, I said, oh, this one's over, but gets a great break here and clearly goes right to the lead.
That was very cool. The break was critical. We knew we were going to get some pressure from Dalmore, and we thought we'd try to, not get into a head-and-head situation for sure. That wouldn't have helped anybody. But when he beat the latch and cleared the field, I was pretty comfortable. And 23 and change for him is a nice rhythmical pace for him. What's happened is certainly the last two races, the Suburban and yesterday's Whitney, I think he's gotten braver and more comfortable, and certainly made us more comfortable that a half and 46, even going a mile and a quarter, is not that big of a deal for him. And that high cruising speed, it stretches everybody's run.
When the 46 came up, and in this section, when he actually, without being asked, when he extends this lead to about a half a dozen lengths, I thought the race was over then, because everybody else is hamstrung now. Look at him, look at him asking.
And that was a bit of the same way in the Suburban. The half and 46 bothered me, but the 9 and change didn't, because everybody was off the bridle. Now they were trying to stay in the race, and that diminishes their late kick. They're using fuel that they'd rather be sitting chilly on and trying to explode up the lane. I thought, Ira was very aggressive around the turn to give him as much space. And then here, the first couple of times he hits him, he actually adds another length or two to it. And I thought it was over here. Mining Biscuits was coming, but he started to grind here. He wasn't really coming, he was grinding, and I thought we were fairly safe at this point.
He's kind of upright, too. It's not as if he leveled off and finished. He just
his action stayed very clean and pretty efficient. So he's a very, very good horse.
And as clearly, as you indicated with your decision even to run, I noted that for the first time in his career, he was running a fourth time without a layoff line.
Yeah.
And that 59 and change work that Mike Welsh lauded, basically saying no ill effects from the Suburban, you sort of connected the dots and said, they're doing the right thing here.
Yeah. Well, I would certainly, he kept convincing me we were doing the right thing. I mean, he trained well, shipped up here well, ate well, was moving great. The breeze was actually a throttled down breeze. He'd gone off at almost 24, and the exercise riders chirped him a little bit and went in 46 and 3, and we had him on the walkie-talkie, and I kind of said, whoa, 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 and so he was kind of eased up going 59, so came out of that great. His blood was terrific, and I finally, he kind of said, come on, chicken, enter me,
explain to everybody, Rick, because there isn't a horseman alive that hasn't been fooled into running in a spot because the appearance is that the horse is doing good and has come out of a race. Can you identify the nuance that says, I don't think that, what would he have had to have shown you to not run?
I mean, they can fool you. Sometimes that fast breeze is them maybe a little over the top and on edge and a little fidgety, and they go fast, but it's not a genuine fast. It's more of an erratic, and that's the decision. You're trying to filter through that. He had done everything else so well. His gallop a couple of days after his breeze was awesome. His appetite stayed the same. There was no variations. We weren't trying to fit a square peg in a round hole here. The fit was just right, and he kept convincing me that it was the right thing to do. I mean, I really didn't talk jockeys until entry day. I mean, I didn't want to mess up anybody and let them think we were going and not do it. And actually people were gracious enough. Chad was kind enough to let Irad off of Backyard Heaven and to get Castellano and Ron Palucci as a lot of times he can stir up things. He was nice enough to let Castellano get off of his horse to go to Chad, and so sometimes there is some very beneath the surface sportsmanship, and everybody kind of was happy with where they were after the draw.
Give us another glance into his maturity, because we think of fully mature horses at age 5. He's a gelding. He was gelded in 2016.
Right.
But he is now a mature horse. How has he changed in your view with the full flower of being a 5-year-old?
He's always been, up until this year, a bit of a baby. I mean, in that he would notice everything, he would react to things. I mean, not stupidly, but he'd see a bird flying and it catches, or a horse on the racetrack, or just very inquisitive, but kind of a little bit of an immature brain at times. And this year he stepped up, like I said, as he's gained confidence and certainly using his early speed, he's given us our confidence to let him do it. And I think the last couple of races we stopped getting in his way.
I want to go back to the Charlestown race because that's a fluky kind of mental thing that you've talked about, and we talk about them being creatures of habit, and it's such an aberration on the page. And you would think, given that bull ring and the 3 turns, the speed would play out. But you said, as a creature of habit, a 3-turn race, he got past the 2 turns and thought his job was done.
I really think, nobody believed me, but, he went his 2 turns. And I think just the wind came out of his sail a little bit. I think it spooked Irad a little bit coming off the layoff. He got, have a little injury at Churchill. So I think being a little protective, he wasn't going to force the issue. But when he realized that he really was just pulling up and he needed a kick in the butt and not a pat in the neck. So we certainly learned from that. And, creature of habit, whatever, he counted to 2 and said enough's enough.
$60,000 question. What's next?
Again, I opened my mouth too soon last time. I really doubt we would do the Woodward. I think we would look at the Gold Cup. Gives us 8 weeks. He's come off 3, very, very good performances. And I think this is one of the times where you have to maybe even discount. If he's looking great, kicking the walls, you're supposed to discount it. Discretion, better part of valor here, and wait for the Gold Cup. Although I would love to win the Woodward, we're not going to, because it's one of those legacy races. He's won the Suburban, now the Gold Cup, the Whitney. Adding the Woodward to that shelf, it'd be pretty cool.
Well, he puts himself in unique company with these 3 wins, and at the same time, for you and for Ralph Evans. I mean, talk about the satisfaction of delivering a horse like this, a horse that is going to be around. I mean, this is clearly a horse that's only hitting his best stride now, and really, at a fulfilled portion of his career. So to have this for you and Ralph Evans, there's got to be tremendous satisfaction. You guys have been together 20 years?
25 years,
25
I believe.
years.
Yeah. He's a very, very special person. The family is special. There's never any second guessing. There's always turn the page. It's thrilling. You know, when we had Upstart, he did grab me by the elbow one day. He said, you know, you're kind of spoiling me here. I'm liking these big dances. And we were fortunate enough to kind of tumble into Diversify and keep the dance card going.
You started March Magic?
Yep. Yeah, that was our second. We had a horse called Free of Love.
Free
as
of
well.
Love?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
In Westchester. Got beat a lip in the Jim Dandy here. The only year it was a grade 1. Scorpion beat us. The last bob at the wire, that was a killer.
There's an obscure exact from
exactly.
Saratoga history.
Neither one of them was worth a damn after that either, I don't think. But no, like I said, they've been great clients. March Magic was a very, very nice filly. She made about 700,000.
Molly Pitcher.
Molly Pitcher, exactly. Yeah.
I want to toss in also because it was a New York bred exacta. You're a longtime New York guy. What's the feeling of kind of elevating the New York bred program? Because again, it's so important to New York racing in general. You know, a lot of the cards are filled with the New York breds. So to have the New York breds kind of step out and run 1-2 and Diversify, doing as well as he's done now, an open grade 1 company, that's got to feel good.
You know, there's no ceiling any longer. There's no glass ceiling or any ceiling. New York is capable of breeding very, very good horses, and certainly top of the class. I actually chuckled a little bit. There was some of the commentators saying this might be the weakest Whitney in years and everything, and I had 3 grade 1 winners, and I'd actually like to go and look at all the grade 1s across the country and see how many grade 1 winners were in those races. You know, even Gunrunner was a freak of a horse, and it was a great horse, but I think he was the only grade 1 winner in last year's Whitney. So I think sometimes it's a backhand compliment because the 2 New York horses New York breds were the 2 stars of the race, and somehow in some people's eyes it diminishes it. And I think anybody with a real knowledge of things realizes that it does anything but that.
A couple are very special New York breds.
Exactly.
Before we let you go, I pulled up another replay because I was looking up By Self. I wanted to get a little update there. Belmont, we're going to look at him running second behind Hayfield. Hayfield came back to win up here. Hayfield's going to be the number 1. By Self is the number 5 in here. Again, runs second after a couple of first place finishes earlier in the career. Talk a little bit about By Self.
Really nice filly. I don't think she loved the racetrack that day, and you know, we had to send her a bit, being the inside, and that cost us. Nice filly beat her. I mean, you know.
As I say, the winner came back to win up here just a week
exactly.
ago. So.
We're actually going to run her.
I saw turf workout.
Yeah.
Okay.
She breathes very, very well. She hits the ground real hard on the dirt. She climbs a little bit. She breathes quite well alone. Thought her action was actually improved over the dirt. So there's the Stallion Series race on the 9th.
On the turf?
On the mile on the turf. That we're
nice.
going to take a shot there.
All right, sounds good.
How about Super Committee, who looked like a winner mid-stretch?
Yeah, she had a tough trip. She got annihilated leaving there, and I thought should have won the race. I think she's got a future. She's a very nice filly.
Yeah, and that was what is the nuance? Give everybody an insight of running in a maiden 75 versus the maiden special weight.
Well, that was a stake that day we ran her in. That was one of the New York bred 2-year-old stakes. The big deal was, it was 100,000, and there were only 2 winners in the race. So it was kind of it was an appealing spot, and I thought the actually maiden races might be tougher up here than they were down there. So we took a shot there. Yeah, and I mean maiden special weight here. They're wars. The toss-up is a Chester Broman bred, and they're regally bred. It doesn't matter if they were bred here at North Korea, if Chester's breeding them. The mare's usually a blue hen of some sort. So, and you can hook that at any race. Even the maiden 75, somebody's trying to take a little bit of relief, but usually that can be a war as well. But any of those 2-year-old maiden races, you might see this year's or next year's champion.
Well, that was a crazy race too. I mean, there's going to be a bunch of winners out of that race.
Exactly.
You
right.
and the Shepherd horse that you probably bet on.
Linda's horse just won. She was 4th in that race, and she won the other day.
That's right. Came back on moderate There's been a bunch of quick turnarounds.
Yeah.
Both of Mott's maiden winners
The one
yesterday on
yesterday.
7-day rest.
That was
7 and
impressive
6.
yesterday,
Both of
too.
them were
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Lee
that was-
Einseidler with Casa
Yep,
Creed,
yep.
and then the Claiborne,
Yeah.
Mucho.
Yeah, that was a big race yesterday.
Well, a big race from Diversify, again, waiting for the figure. It's got to be in about the same range, 107, 108.
You know, and that's historical. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
We got there first.
That's it. Rick Violet, everybody.
We were happy to be joined one morning by Joe Bravo, Jersey Joe Bravo, but he was riding up here during the meet as well. He was a lot of fun to talk to. Joe Bravo. We are joined now by Jersey Joe Bravo. Joe, good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you, Seth.
Happy to have you on board here on a nice Thursday morning up at Saratoga, and we'll talk a little bit about Saratoga season. You're going to be out at Del Mar on the weekend, and much, much more. A great weekend last weekend out at Monmouth as well, but I always like to ask the jockeys when they step in, how'd you get into the game and reading bio information? You had the family connection.
Yeah, I mean, can you believe I tried out for the basketball league? They cut me, man. I can't believe it. But we're going to try tonight's basketball, okay? Listen, just because as a kid I didn't make it out to the NBA, tonight I'm going to try to, too. But no, going back to that, my father was a jockey. My grandfather was a jockey. My kids is growing up, all the toys were jockey whips, helmets, and, yep.
So, did you go to the track a lot as a kid?
That was home.
And when did you start riding?
Officially or unofficially? I rode my official race at 16 years old, but I was riding match races when I was 11 years old in Texas.
Really?
So that's where I kind of like, you know how you do your education, and I didn't go to make it to college, but my college days were living in Texas. I spent the years from 11 years old to 16 riding match races. It gave me a lot of great experience. By the time I went to ride races, I might have hundreds of races I've already rode, but they were just quarter horse races.
Yeah.
It wasn't thoroughbred, so I had to adapt to a little slower pace.
Gave you the good
Save
background.
some horse. You don't have to go a full quarter mile.
Yeah, there you go. And again, the reference to the basketball game tonight, that's a good opportunity just to tout it again. Right down the street, Saratoga Rec Center, Vanderbilt Avenue, 6:30, right after the races, the Jockeys basketball game. It's always a lot of fun. I think I'm going to be on the other. I think I'm going to. They pulled me back in, I think, to see if I can get a basket 2 years in a row.
Don't be guarding me too hard, okay? Listen, you know, I'm not 21. I'm not trying to be a superstar on the court.
No, I went up and tried to guard a couple of jockeys last year, and boom, right by me. Yeah, so,
They're fast.
Yeah, no question about it. Talk a little bit about, again, getting back to the beginning of your career. I'm always interested, and most people do. You remember your first winner?
Of course. My first winner was a horse called Daffy Dack for trainer Louis Oliveras. I had no idea what I was doing. I was holding on, screaming, praying. The horse ran fast, and we won.
I always say, and I'll ask if you agree, when I'm handicapping and there's a 10-pound apprentice on board, I love it when they're on speed horses because I always think all you have to do is come out of the gate and just keep going.
Exactly. Let them stay out of the way and just, yep.
Yeah. You remember your first trip to Saratoga? Did you come here before you were a jockey with relatives that rode?
No, I was not lucky enough for that. I came here and I rode my first race, and I forgot how I did my first time to Saratoga. I think I was probably like a deer in headlights coming to Saratoga because anybody been here, look how much going on. You can't replica like this anywhere in the country. You walk the backside in the morning, you're liable to be talking to anybody. There's just so much going on at one time. It's pretty special. You know, you're blessed to be here. You know, I am.
And I'll ask you, you know, as a jockey from that side of the game, because certainly as a fan, it's a lot of fun to be up here and see the jockeys walking through the crowd. And I think the crowd up here is so knowledgeable. It's got to be fun for you guys, you know, walking to the paddock and then coming out of the winner's circle and walking back to the jocks room, the fans with the autographs. And as they say, they're so knowledgeable up here.
I guess this statement's only for people who've really been into horse racing, but if you're a jockey and been riding Aqueduct Belmont, and then they tell you you got to go through Saratoga and walk through the stands, I was petrified. I said, oh, wait a minute. If I have a 1-5 shot and get beat, those New York fans will kill you. They're great, though. I mean, they really, it's the same people from New York that come up here, but everybody's like in a good mood, and it's like a vacation for New York racing. And they showcase the best horses they have in the barn up here. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, it is a great venue, and I always say it's more than just inside the fences. It's outside the fences where you're downtown eating dinner. People are talking about yesterday's double and tomorrow's triple. It's always a lot of fun. I'll ask you, because again, nicknamed Jersey Joe Bravo, and in a second we're going to take a look at a great weekend down at Monmouth last weekend, and so you're still tied into New Jersey racing. When I pulled up the Equibase stats, if these are still legitimate, 13 Monmouth riding titles, 9 titles at the Meadowlands. And as a guy that has ridden over the years a lot of times down in New Jersey, I just want to ask, with the sports betting going in, a couple of days after it went in, we talked to one of the vice presidents down at Monmouth. We had Frank Miramonti here the other day. And it seems like after a period where things were a little shaky, there's some more optimism now in New Jersey.
Yeah, you definitely see some sunshine ahead of us there at Monmouth track. I mean, ever since the sports began, you could just see even like the crowds. Everybody's kind of going in there, and it's putting a whole new twist into racing. When I was down there last weekend for the Haskell, it was pretty wild that you could bet on a horse to win by a nose. You could bet on a horse to win by 5 lengths. Horse for horse. It's a complete. I've been riding for 30 years, and it makes a whole new twist in racing. I think it's going to generate a lot more buzz about it. We're going to find out. It's a whole new venture, and I'd say I got to take my hat off to Dennis Drazen. I mean, he was really the fortune behind it all. He really he slaved over it, and he's done a great job.
And when the decision was made in Washington, they were ready to go.
Yeah, it's pretty fun to see how it's going and see what kind of direction it goes. But it's generating a lot. And I think it's all positive.
Yeah, they had pick 4 the other day with horse races and baseball games.
Yeah,
Like
I mean, how do you come up with that? But it's amazing. It's great.
But you're based up here this summer. However, you did make the trip down to New Jersey last weekend, and we wanted to touch on some of the nice stakes action down there in the Ocean Port. We're going to watch the stretch drive here, number 2 Synchrony with Joe Bravo aboard. Chart margin of 1 2/4 lengths. But there was a little
bit closer with him. I didn't want to have to make up that much ground, but we got slammed leaving the gate, and what a professional this horse is. He took the bounce in, he relaxed good, and I mean, he really conducted himself great. He was breathing, he was settled. The biggest thing with turf racing, having a horse turn off. You can't have him keen because they're not going to give you that turn of foot as you've seen Synchrony did here, turning for home. It was a pretty small hole, and he's just such a horse that's willing to do it. That all I had to do was point him to it, and he just overcame everything that had happened in the beginning of the race.
in trouble, but you get a nice ride up the rail there.
Professional, yeah, pure professional. I'm really excited to see what this horse has in the future. He's got a lot of talent.
Yeah, Michael Stidham trainee, and you had ridden him in some starts before, and we've been right in the thick of things going back to the fairgrounds as well, and we'll talk a little bit more about the fairgrounds in a moment. But I also wanted to show the Molly Pitcher, because it's our friends at West Point, Rob Masiello and West Point, and Burned, and they were looking for the graded stakes win. I was talking to them the other day, and they said, hey, they were right there, and the horse has shown a lot of talent, but you got it for them on Sunday. This is the Molly Pitcher. Burned is the number 8 horse here. Opens up a nice little lead, gets kind of chased late, but still holds him off by 3/4 of a length. Really nice performance there in the West Point colors.
Yeah, I hate to really staple her as a horse for course, but she runs some really big races here. I mean, this race here today, I got into her a little bit early, and man, she made a middle move around the turn and got to the lead a little bit too early, and I was like, okay, I got the race won. I started to ease up here, and I'm like, oh, who's this running? You can feel the shadow. All I had to do was ask her, and she kind of get kicked in again. She's a pretty fun horse to ride. Push button for us, and let's see what the future has for her to bring too. I mean, she's on a big effort. She only won by a little bit, but I think she had more if I had to do it.
Yeah, as I say, it's fun to root for our
And
friends
it's a
at
great
West
team.
Point.
I mean, West Point's got so many good partners. I mean, and I had Tom Durkin say, hey, Joe, thanks, I had a piece of her. I mean, who doesn't own a piece of her? I mean, I'm here in Saratoga, and I got thanked by everybody, and it's pretty fun to deal with good people.
Yeah, I have stood in front of the big screen down on the bottom floor of the clubhouse watching West Point horses run out here, and the whole crew is there, and they have a great time as well, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah. And Terry Finley's done a great job with the whole organization. I don't even know how many years they've been in business, but I remember when they first come around with John Dow, they were just kind of getting their feet wet in horse racing, and now they're one of the major competitors out there, and I'm proud of them. They've got a great stable behind them.
Yeah, Rob Masiello owns part of the horse too, and I had him on the other day, and he said he called up Terry when he was still in college. He said, I don't have any money now, but I want to jump in when I have some money. So they got him tied in, and now he's out owning on his own as well. Coming up this weekend, just want to touch a little bit because you have a runner out in the yellow ribbon at Del Mar, so you'll be headed out there. Grass race, obviously, and we're going to look at Halle Bell. We're going to go back to the fairgrounds last November. Nice little allowance win on Halle Bell. She is going to be the number 11 horse here, 3 to 5 that day in a field of 10 down on the turf at Fairgrounds. Most recently, you were out at Arlington, ran third in the Modesty Honor. Talk a little bit about Hallie Bell and what you expect on Saturday.
Yeah, this was the first time you're showing the replay now of me sitting on it. I really didn't know what I was sitting on, and it was a good Dolphin horse, so she's going to just keep blossoming to be a better filly as she gets older. And she really showed a lot of talent in this race. I wish you could see the last race in Arlington. That was a big effort. She made up a lot of ground on the heavy favorite that day, but around the turn, I had a horse to break down in front of us, and we lost some pretty good ground.
Okay.
She got shuffled back more than I wanted to be, and she probably closed better than anybody in her last effort. So I'm really expecting a big effort this Saturday out there at Del Mar. Last night when the PPs come out, I was very happy with her post position. That helps a lot post when turf racing. And there was plenty of gas. I mean, I counted at least 4, maybe 5 speed horses in the race. So at least it's honest pace. You hate to go to a place where you're a horse, you're coming from out of it, it's a speed course, and there's no pace. But I think the race could set up really good. Mike, he knows when to run him. He's really, Stidham's, he knows his horse is so good. So when he steps up to a grade 2 race, I want to be there with him.
Still fairly lightly raced, too. That Modesty was only start number 8, and as you say, if you watch the Godolphin horses, they do kind of take their time and get better over time.
They do. I mean, they're not looking to, do anything first time. They develop an animal to be really something down the road.
You said when the PPs came out, I always like to ask the jockeys when they stop in here what your habits are in preparing for a race. It seems like it runs the gamut for folks who really sit down and study the PPs and pull up replays to folks who are a little more casual and just get in the paddock and let the trainer tell me what he wants and then play it by ear as the gates open. What's your game plan?
I was going to make a little fun. We're on a group text message. It's kind of funny. My agent Jimmy Riccio and Mike Stidham and his Hillary Stidham were all on the group text. They call me Joey Byer because the minute the PPs come out, I'll go through and my quick thing is, and you don't lean everything on Byer numbers, but it's for a great guideline just to get the first initial, and I'll go through and I'm like, man, our Byers look good today. Joey Byer approves. It's just something funny that we kind of play and laugh at. They pick on me. It's okay.
I'm a Byer guy too as a handicapper. Some people use them, some people don't. I always say it's a tool in the toolbox. But you're a guy who relies on replays, and I'm assuming all the jocks say this too. It's just somebody who's been riding on the circuits as you have. You get to know the habits of the other riders too, and I think that plays into it.
Yeah, I mean, in horse racing, don't lean on any one thing. There's so many factors you got to take in. I mean, when you're riding every day with a colony of riders, they're like your brothers. You know what everybody's going to do. But you got to take into factors the track, the pace of the race, the position you have. I mean, there's so much. And just use every bit of information you can because it always helps. You got the groom coming by to you and telling you in the morning, man, this horse has been great in the morning. I mean, so all that information helps in your factor.
Sure. I wanted to show one more replay just because the grade 1s are so nice, and you had a really nice grade 1 earlier this year, one of the better performances of the year. Unfortunately, we haven't seen Army Mule come back out of this, but the Carter going back to April down at Aqueduct. Army Mule is going to be the number 2 horse here, a chart margin of 6 1/4. This was start number 3 from this horse. When you get on and you're in a race like this, do you feel like, oh man, I'm on a Cadillac?
You know when you told me I was on a Cadillac? I walked into the paddock, and we have Todd Pletcher and Vinny Viola standing side by side, and I walk up, and their first words were, Joe, serious horse. And the voice of saying, serious horse. And, we could all read his paper. He ran some nice races prior to this, and he was a good horse, yes. I mean, what you seen that day was just spectacular. I mean, he is an amazing animal, and Todd comes up with him. I mean, he don't just... He knows what he has.
Yeah.
He's one of the best horsemen you're going to see in our decade. I mean, and it was just nice for me to be able to sit on a horse that was that good.
You talked about the race we watched earlier where you opened up a little lead and then felt the horse coming. When you're in a race like that, do you get the sense that, okay, I'm good?
Somebody coming? It had to be a jet plane catching me that day. I was at Albee Buell. You know when a horse is running underneath you. Just like when you're going on the highway and you don't think you're breaking the speed limit. I broke the speed limit from the quarter pole to the wire that day. It was really a good time.
Yeah, very good. Let me ask you a couple of just background and nuts and bolts questions. First, I want to go back to the fairgrounds because I pulled up the the Equibase chart. You had a really nice season. We that's in our mix in the handicapping that time of year, the afternoon programming. So we were watching, and I just had the sense you were having a good meet. But I went back 27% on the win side down at Fairgrounds. What was the impetus for going down there this winter?
I take my hat off again. Mike Stidham. Mike Stidham got my ear a few years ago, asked me to go down. I was like, I'm a little wishy-washy about it. And went down there. First month, I was a little lost. Didn't know what restaurants to go to. Didn't know what exactly. I cried leaving there. I was thinking it was a great move. It's a great place to develop a 3-year-old. They have a great trail to bring up a horse. Their course is amazing. Talk about rainstorms. They had some rainstorms. The turf was good. The main track dried out. Amazing. It was really good racing, and I'm excited about trying to get back down there this winter. You really could find some good horses for the springtime. Wintertime racing is really about developing a horse and trying to get them ready for the 3-year-old trail of the spring, and that's a place that you really can. It's a great surface, and I just can't praise the place enough. And Mike Stidham was the one that got me to go down there and open my eyes to what a great facility it is.
Yeah, and as I say, you had a great meet down there, a nice high percentage on the win side. Yeah. And so where should we go if we go down to eat?
Oh, man, there's so many places there.
You go wrong down there.
I lived right in the middle of the city, and I walked at all the good spots, and yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Before we let you go, I had one more question because we did a seminar Tuesday night, and Maggie Wolfendale was there as well. And somebody asked, she of course does the great paddock commentary looking at the horses, and somebody asked, well, what about when they come out on the track? And then the conversation went to warm-ups and kind of the purpose of warm-ups. Talk a little bit from a jockey's perspective. Is that something we should watch, and are there takeaways we can get from that? If you're on the track and maybe you have a nervous horse and so you warm up one way, you want speed out of the gate, you warm up another way. What is the jockey's take on warm-ups?
Man, that's really funny. I just left my house and the cleaning lady was asking me, hey, when I'm there watching, what do I look at a horse in post-parade to see if he's going to be good? Because you see them all jumping around. Because they're jumping around, don't mean it's always a good thing. They're positive and negatives. If they're positive, like forward and everything's like aggressive and going forward into it, yeah, that's a good thing. It's kind of like looking at your dog every day. You see a horse jumping around, but everything's negative and his head shy's going back. It's a negative thing. So you don't think that's the same thing in the race. I mean, but just because like that day, don't mean they're going to be like that tomorrow in their next start. So watch the post-parade. It tells them a lot. Like I said earlier, taking every factor you can. Just because you handicap on paper doesn't mean that's going to come out when the gates open. Take in post-parade. See if the horse has that positive manner. You know, don't ever lean on one thing.
Yeah, I'm not good at that, the physicality of it, because they all look great to me. But I've been kind of getting a little bit better, as you say, at the post-parades and kind of picking things out, and I'm trying to improve on that, to maybe parse things out.
Those horses, they don't talk. They talk. Trust me, they talk.
I like that. Yeah, very good. Joe, we appreciate the visit certainly this morning. I know how busy things can be for you guys in the mornings, but congratulations on the great weekend down in Monmouth last weekend. Good luck going forward up here for the rest of the season, particularly out at Del Mar on Saturday.
Thanks. Let's survive the weekend. And so, man, it's really exciting, and let's have some fun the next couple weeks here. It's
basketball.
great,
Basketball tonight, too. All right, Joe Bravo. Always fun to talk to Graham Motion. He sat down and visited with Brian on Saturdays at the spa.
I'm going to bring Graham Motion in here. And he's got the Way I Am in the Lake Placid. Graham, I appreciate you stopping by on a busy Saturday morning. On the turf today, as a guy that trains a lot of turf horses, pretty trying first 3 or 4 weeks up here at Saratoga, I would think.
It's been a tough meet for turf trainers, no doubt about it, except for Chad perhaps. But he covers all bases. But no, seriously, it's been a really tough meet for turf trainers.
Yeah. You're going to start a filly, regardless of the course condition, if it's yielding, if it's soft, a lot of give in the ground today. The Way I Am with her running style from off the pace, how does it, I mean, you've run on a good turf course, you've run on a yielding turf course. She certainly handled it in the Appalachian. Is it a plus for you today?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm surprised with this filly because she seems to handle anything that you throw at her. I thought she could be a Gulfstream specialist, which is a very, very fast, very firm, tight turf course. We went to Keeneland. She handled, really good fillies on soft grass. She handled Belmont going 1.25 miles. She didn't win, but she's running against the best in the country. So she's been very competitive on pretty much anything we've thrown at her. She's just a really neat filly to beat around.
We're going to bring up footage of her graded win in the Swedish Chant at Gulfstream in February. Again, we're going to show that from the backstretch. She's a horse that settles, a typical European horse, I would think, that settles early and makes a pretty good run.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I think she's fairly push button. I always felt that she handled Gulfstream so well because she's so nimble. You know, she's a horse that could just make gaps when they open very quickly. She's just a neat filly to be around. So Johnny knows her. He rode a great in the Belmont Oaks. So
in this, you know, talking about Gulfstream, this can be very much of a painted grass kind of highway, kind of a course. The fact that she got over it so well, you know, did it surprise you a little bit? Because you see her flying home here. Did it surprise you a little bit in that, you know, maybe she would be the kind that maybe this wouldn't turf course suit her running style a little bit? You can see horses get away on the lead there and forget to stop a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely surprised. I don't think I gave her credit for how good she is when we were in Florida. I thought she could be a Florida specialist, but she's really proved that she fits with the best in the division.
She's won at 7.5 in a mile, but you talked about the Belmont Oaks last time, stretching out to 1.25 miles. We're going to show it here. She makes a nice middle move in contention and then comes up a little short to Athena for the Coolmore and Aidan O'Brien folks. Couldn't have been disappointed. As you mentioned, you're running against the best of the best on the stretch out for the first time, 1.25 miles. Big effort.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't know for sure she was going to handle 1.25 miles. I think that's probably why Jose jumped off her, because he probably felt, you know, fair play to him. He probably thought his filly had a better shot of getting the 1.25 miles than the way I am did. None of us really knew. But then at the same time, it doesn't surprise me because she is just such a genuine filly.
Is it one of those spots where you just have to try it to figure it out, or what?
I think so. I mean, I'm certainly not smart enough to know if they'll handle it or not. I mean, you can tell by a horse's running style if they're going to relax to go 1.25 miles, but I don't think you really know if they're going to get the 1.25 miles till you try it. I'm not sure it's probably her best distance. I just think she handles everything. I think probably the cut back to 1 mile today favors her, I think.
That was the obvious next question. You cut back today from 10 to 9. You said a better distance for her. Are you excited on the cutback? Certainly a race like this is going to give her a ton of foundation, I would think.
No, definitely. Look, she's very fit. I mean, there's not much of her, and she's been running all winter, so she's a very fit filly. She's a filly we just try to keep happy. Fitness isn't going to be an issue. A lot of what it's going to come down to today is who handles this ground. It's got to be about as soft as we run on in New York.
Yeah, that's certainly the $64,000 question. I think the other thing in here, you look at this race on paper. I mean, first of all, do you look at this race on paper? And secondly, when I look at it, I don't see a lot of speed in here.
Yeah, I think she's going to have a cozy trip, not too far off the pace, being in the one hole with Johnny, who knows her.
Right.
Again, I think she's very adaptable, so I wouldn't be surprised if they don't go too quick. She's going to be handy.
Do you tell him anything, or
no? I don't tell Johnny anything.
Don't have to worry about telling a Hall of Fame jockey. A very tough race. How has she come out? You brought her back to Fair Hill and ran, worked on the synthetic down there. How has she come out since the Belmont Oaks and bringing you today to the Lake Placid?
She's done well. I mean, really, she's just had maintenance work. She's been breezing with Colonia, who runs in the Del Mar Oaks today. They kind of go as a team. They're very similar types. Colonia needs to get a bit more out of her work because she's not as fit as the way I am is, but she's really done everything we asked her to do. She's a real pro.
Did you ever consider, was the Lake George ever in the plans, or time for a little break after? I know she's run 6 times this year.
Yeah, I mean, she's run a lot already this year, and I just worry that it's going to catch up with her at some point, but we try to space her races. You know, I think a filly like her that puts so much into their races, you've got to give them time to get over it.
3 times she ran in Europe. How did she come to your barn?
Brad Weisbord found her in Europe through a French bloodstock agent. He's been really clever at finding these fillies that fit over here. You know, we have Colonia also that Brad found, and Secret Message, who won the Pucker Up last year. So we have a pretty strong group of these 3-year-old fillies that came over.
Did you, when you got her, you ran her pretty quickly. I mean, she ran July in Europe, and you bring her back at Keeneland. When you got her, did you say to yourself, well, I think this is a graded stakes kind of filly? What was she like when she first came to the barn?
I don't think so. I mean, I think her work's good enough, but I think, you know, she still had to go out there and prove it to us, which she's done every time.
A lot of seconds and thirds at the meet. I would think this would be a good time to get one.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Even Indian Charlie's getting after me today. So,
well, I joke because he got after Kenny for putting on some weight, so I guess it could be worse, right?
Look, I mean, it's a tough meet. It's you know, you're battling heads with the best in the game up here, and when you have the weather curve that's been thrown to us, it's been frustrating. Look, we win the Diana, we get beat a blip. If we win the Diana, we've already had a good meet.
We're going to bring it up here. Ulterbrat in the Diana, runs an absolute corker and just comes up a little short. Stepped up that day off the big win at Pimlico, and I think she only beat 3 horses that day in a total bog that day. I was down there. A monster effort from Ulterbrat.
Yeah, this is going to be frustrating to
Yeah,
watch again.
I know.
I don't think I've watched it again. And I got beat the same way in this race last year, so this has been a frustrating race for me. It's a race I've always wanted to win since my days with Jonathan Shepherd.
Yeah.
It's a race that we always had a horse for. It's such a prestigious race. It's one of the races that you'd like to have on your resume.
I mean, you did lose to the best grass filly in the country, but this was a really monster race. I read some of your quotes after the race, and you said you were I believe you said you were trying to find out if she was a Breeders' Cup, kind of horse. I would think this effort. I know they go a mile and 3/8 at Churchill.
Unfortunately, to rub salt in the wound, she's not 100% since the race, so we're going to have to give her a little time.
Little time, okay.
Yeah.
Big effort. The way I am today in the Lake Placid, as I mentioned, you look at this race on paper. You mentioned Chad Brown. He's got the 2 favorites in here. I would think in rushing fall. And then certainly significant form, but you gave her all she wanted in the Appalachian, so I would think you're not scared of anyone today.
No, look, I think it's going to come down to trip and who handles a soft turf. We've got to turn the tables on that filly, and somehow we've got to find an edge, whether it's a brilliant ride from Johnny or her handling the turf a little better than the others.
Yeah. Well, Graham, I want to appreciate you stopping by. I know it was a busy Saturday.
Good visit with our friend from West Point Thoroughbred, Terry Finley. It was only a day or two after he had pitched in for a 7-figure sum across the street at the yearling sales. Terry Finley talks about that next.
3.5, I'll let you do it. 1,325,000. You want to do that? 1,325,000 and 1,325,000. Not a doubt about it. Take it down. 1,325,000. Not a doubt about it. Take it down. Sure, you would get right back in there. And 1,325,000. If it deals all through, all done. Last go. 1,325,000. Now 50 and 1,350,000. Now 75 and 1,375,000. 1,375,000. Right back here. 1,375,000. Yes sir. Yes sir. 1,375,000 and 1,375,000. Take it down. 1,375,000 and 1,375,000. Not a thanks for what you did. 1,375,000. And I have $1,350,000.
Ladies and gentlemen, please. Let's just let the horse get out of the ring safely. That's the main thing. We appreciate your enthusiasm, but they don't.
That was a week ago, just down the street, the Fasig-Tipton Pavilion, hip number 196, sales topper $1.35 million. We have the purchaser. We'll get to him in just a second. I do want to alert you, coming up a little later on, Matt Haggerty from the Daily Racing Forum. He's going to cover what happened at the Jockey Club Roundtable this weekend and also Albany Law Conference last week. Chris Kay will join us at the bottom of the hour, give a little halftime report on the Saratoga meet so far. 21 days in the books so far, 19 still to go. And then our friend Jim Corns, a longtime Capital O TV personality, but subsequently out at Dubai, Presque Isle. Now he's down in Florida, but I thought it'd be fun to get Jim on while he's in town. But top of the show, our friend Terry Finley from West Point Thoroughbreds, again, jumped in last week over at Fasig-Tipton for the $1.35 million Medaglia d'Oro runner, hip number 196. Terry, good morning.
Good morning. I was thinking about that. That was a lot of fun. A lot of excitement. A lot of cameras. I just know in a couple of weeks I'm gonna have to write a check out. So I'll figure out. I'll give it another week before I try to figure that out.
I was in the backyard. I ran into you and Rob Masiello after I ran into Tommy Bellhouse and Migliori, and they were both like, "Wow!" But I ran into you and Rob Masiello subsequently, and you said it all came together pretty quickly. Describe what happens in the process of picking up a sales topper.
Well, we loved him, and a lot of other people did. I mean, he was a horse. I have trainers, that I don't really know that come up to me and say, "Man, that was a really nice horse." So there aren't very many of those over the course of a yearling sales season. I texted a guy literally about 10 minutes before the sale, and I said, "I'm in the foxhole, and I'm in a position. I got to get some help." And he called me, and I looked down, and I explained the situation. He said, "I'm in for a third." And then I talked to Rob. He said, "I got you covered, for a third." Then another guy, "I'm in for 10%." And now I'm saying, I might have a shot to get this sucker done. And everything just, and he walked into the ring, and I just felt it. You know, sometimes in life, especially at these sales, there are times that you don't feel it. I felt it the other night, and it was really cool.
Talk about that. The mental and the physical aspect of it when you're, you know, and I know you guys play at maybe normally a little bit of a different level, and so to step up at Saratoga and get the sales topper, just like physically and mentally, what's happening as you're sitting there and it's going up and you're bidding and.
It was a blur, right? I mean, we have never spent. I think we bought a weanling, you know, first crop of a goat sapper for like $750. That was 10 years ago. So we haven't been close to this. And again, sometimes it just comes over you. And if I knew if we would have tried to put this deal together that morning, there would have been a couple people that said, "I'll get back to you," and it would not have come together. So the fact that we had 10 minutes. And every person that I talked to said, "Yes, I'm in." I don't know. There was just everything kind of fell into place, and you know, the times in the horse racing business when everything falls into place, you gotta seize the day, and you know that's what we try. That's what I tried to do, and it. I just hope it works out.
Yeah,
of course.
As I said, it was funny when I saw you afterwards. You said it all fell into place about 10 minutes before the horse came in. When we saw from the video, beautiful horse. And talk a little bit about the process beforehand. How did you find that horse? You're looking at the page. Were you out in the morning getting the confirmation and whatnot? How did you put that on your short list?
Well, we usually like this sale. We'll buy one or two. If you look at the last 10 years, you know, we don't buy a bunch here. We ended up with 4 at the select sale, and we bought one last night, a central banker, really a sharp filly. So I guess we were just a little bit more integrated and you know, forward in the process. But David Ngordo, who's a really top-end bloodstock, I think has a great eye. You know, he's kind of the advance, you know, at the helm of the advance team.
Wasn't he on the Zenyatta?
He was. He bought Zenyatta at the September, and that really kicked off his career. But he's into a lot of things in Kentucky. So he's been a great addition to our ecosystem, and that's what I think we've done. Is I've worked on our ecosystem. You know, you the buying team, and you know, we went to Eddie Woods in Ocala, and then our trainers. He's going to go to Grand Motion, and that's what I think my job is as the head of West Point, is to make that ecosystem better and better every year, and that's what I'm focused on.
You mentioned going to Grand Motion. I found that interesting. I went to your website, and I had Tommy Bellhouse in a couple of weeks ago, and I mentioned it. And whenever I talk to you guys have a really good website. I mean, not just for the folks involved with West Point, but if you're just interested in you kind of upcoming races for your horses and news and events and whatnot. But I looked, and you already had trainers assigned for the 4 horses you bought. How's that process work?
Well, I think that, you know, the team, they like to be able to give the full picture to potential, you know, prospects and clients. And you know, I met with a gentleman last night at the sale. We just happened to talk, and we exchanged glances and shook hands, which happens a lot at the sales. And he said, "I'm interested in getting more involved in the business." He's got a couple, but he said, "The one thing that I want and I'll demand is I want good communication." I said, "I think we got that covered." And I just say to everybody, you know, trainers, other partnership managers, people want to be communicated with. The good, the bad, the ugly, and we know we're going to have it in our business. You got to communicate, and that's what I've that mantra is really at the core of the things that we do in our company.
And as I say, the website does that very successfully. I think it's a great website. People can find it. You know, West Point Thoroughbreds out there on the internet. Google it, and then if you want more information, just to keep up with some of the horses, a lot of fun. I want to touch on some of your horses running right now. But before we do that, you mentioned Central Banker, and your guys who participate in the sales. What's jumped out to you this year as far as those first-time sires?
Well, I think Carpe Diem. He had a couple over there. I mean, we bought a filly, paid $450,000 for her, but I mean, she was a spectacular athlete. You know, he doesn't stand for a whole lot of money, but he's one that I would keep my eye on. Of course, the Pharaohs, Honor Code. You know, I'm partial to Liam's Map. I mean, there were some really quality ones. I think he's got a big shot. But you know what? They'll get all the hype. They'll have some horses that sell for big money. but they got to do it on the racetrack, and that's the beauty of our business. You can talk all you want. We have the questions, and the horses have the answers.
All right, let's talk about some of the answers, because you had a win yesterday. It was out of town, though, and I'm just curious. We're going to take a look yesterday up at Woodbine, watch Fire for Effect win a little claiming race up there, win it pretty nicely. Fire for Effect is going to be the number 4 horse here on our replay, and as I say, that was up at Woodbine, and I wanted to show this, A, because it was a win within the past 24 hours, but B, how do you guys, were you in front of a simulcast screen for this one?
We are. I thought you're showing it because we haven't won one up here yet, but it was a win is good no matter where it is. But we know that wins at Saratoga are pretty darn. They're more special than anywhere else.
And certainly you will have plenty of opportunities before the meet ends. And I've stood at that big screen at the bottom floor of the clubhouse behind the West Point team, and they're very enthusiastic when the horses come down the stretch. Let's talk about some potential horses. Let's talk about one that won just the other day on the big day down at Monmouth, because I'm curious where Burned may go next. We're going to pull up the Molly Pitcher next from Haskell Day down at Monmouth. Byrne gets a nice graded stakes win in the Molly Pitcher. She'll be the number 8 horse in here under Joe Bravo. 3/4 of a length is the chart margin. And as I say, nice win on the big day down at Monmouth. What's up next for Byrne?
We'll probably get. We were tempted to come back in the Ballerina. I think we're going to give her a little bit more time, and we'll run her at Churchill in the middle of September, grade 3. But she's a quality filly. She's got a very deep, probably the best pedigreed horse that we've ever had under the black and gold. So the fact that we were able to get a graded stakes win was pretty significant with her. And she finished second as a 2-year-old at Aqueduct and just got beat, had a bad trip. So we were like, she's going to be a graded stakes win. 2 years later, we were like, all right, come on, girl, let's get this done. And I give a lot of credit to Joe Bravo and to Graham. Joe is the king of Monmouth Park, and we actually showed on Twitter. Joe won a race for us down there 25 years ago.
Oh, really?
So it was really cool to see those. So Joe's been a good friend of our stable for a long time, and I don't say he's an underrated rider, but he's a great guy, and I think he's as good as he's ever was.
Yeah, I had him in about a week and a half ago. Nice guy too. It was fun to have him sit in here and talk to him a little bit. All right, we want to talk to one that we talked to you earlier this year about, just after you kind of got in with the proper timing. We were down at Gulfstream Park for the Gulfstream Park Oaks win for Coach Rocks, but I wanted to pull up the Delaware Oaks. Red Ruby has turned into a monster, and you won't run a good second to Red Ruby with Coach Rocks. Talk a little bit about that partnership with our friend Roddy Valente and Coach Patino as well.
Yeah, just really good. There again, being at the right place at the right time. I showed up at Gulfstream, and they were all there having a good time, and I saw her breeze by, and I said, who is that? And we had struck up. And I've known Roddy for a while. I didn't know Coach Patino that well, just to say hello. And, I'm very appreciative of the fact that they gave us a shot to come in, because partnerships aren't easy. I know they're proliferating around the industry, and I think that's good. But we all know that partnerships are tough, and you have to be with the right people, and there's got to be a leader. And I think we look to Roddy as the leader of the partnership, and he's done a great job, and he's unbelievably passionate. And if there's anybody that deserves to win a huge race like the Alabama at Saratoga, it is Roddy. Coach Patino has been a long-time supporter of our business, so you like to be around really good guys that have talked the talk over the years, but also walk the walk.
And that's the game plan still next week in the Alabama.
It is.
Yeah,
Can't wait.
It's going to be fun. It's always fun to root for like the local guys, and with you and Roddy involved, the horse has been fun to kind of watch and root for over the course of the career, going back to that Gulfstream Park Oaks win, which we were lucky enough to be there for and talk to you in the winner's circle. Also wanted to pull up, we're going to take a look at the Dwyer from July 7th. Frenzy Fire freaks that day, but 7 Trumpets, pretty good second in that event. And I guess the game plan for 7 Trumpets is going to be potentially the Alan Jerkins later in the meet.
It is. He did. He the winner. He made mincemeat of some really good horses. And we know that there are times where you see horses where they freak and they just can't replicate those efforts, because they only have so many of those in the tank. And so, look, we've had a great month. I was very happy. We We were tempted to come back in the Amsterdam, and we took hold. We gave him a couple more weeks, and I know Dale's, he's very happy with these two horses, and we're in with a chance on Alabama Day and on Travers Day, and that's really, if there are 2 weekends you want to be in play at Saratoga, I would think, aside from Whitney Day, there are 2 days that you want to be out in front and trying to get to the winner's circle.
Terry, appreciate the visit. Got to wrap it up, but again, I'll tell people to visit the website. They can, you Google West Point Thoroughbreds and you go right to the website, and people can kind of keep up with the entries coming up and root along for your horses or find out more information. You, Tommy Bellhouse, bouncing around the track all the time, and I assume that if people are interested, they can walk up and ask.
Absolutely, and that happens too, at the sales and the track, and we just want our business to prosper. If you come into other partnerships or our partnership, you do it your own. We just want people to get into the ownership business, and our game's coming back. It really is.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, certainly, to, as I say, root for some of the local guys. So we always like to see the West Point Silks in the winner's circle. Terry, appreciate the visit.
Thank you, Seth.
Our last weekend for Loose on the Lead with co-host Steve Bick, we invited in Sam the Bugler. Sam Grossman wrapped up his NYRA career on Monday, the closing day at the racetrack. Labor Day was his last bugle call, and we previewed that on the Sunday morning. Sam the Bugler up next.
We're back from our last break of the Saratoga summer to close out the season, and closing out a unbelievable quarter of a century run as the man with the horn, NYRA's Sam Grossman. Sam the Bugler. Sammy, I said this before we came on. I can't envision this backyard without you, and a big Belmont Day or a Cigar Mile Day or really a Wednesday in February without you blowing the horn. You've been the most gracious ambassador. You work that backyard day after day, playing birthday songs, playing requests. It's just what you've done here is it'll be very, very difficult, if replaceable at all. And we had to have you here to say thank you for everything you've done.
Well, it's been my honor to play those beautiful thoroughbreds onto the track and the best jockeys in the world. And I owe a great debt of gratitude to Jay Cohen, who has been the bugler at Santa Anita since 1987, who's helped me with equipment and shtick and everything. And I've enjoyed every minute of it, and had the great fortune of being friends with Harry Rice, who's one of the valets in the jocks room, in charge of taking care of the horses. And very few people will ever have the honor of such a friend.
One of the most famous summer encampments in Saratoga is the Grossman Rice House that has had all kinds of Dan Silver and Jason Blewett.
Let me tell you what, Harry's very civilized, and he has very set rules, and clearly I did not follow them all of the time, and that's on me. But I've had a great time every summer with Harry and his buddies from Staten Island. We got Patty, and we got Jimmy Whispers. And let me tell you, when Jimmy Whispers goes to the window, they follow him.
Talk a little bit about getting signed on with NYRA. You were classically trained. You've been working a horn since you were 5 years old.
Yes.
And your twin brother Irv, of course, always fun when he shows up at the track too. Who approached you, or how did you even get on the racetrack?
Well, I did a master's in music, and I just
Miami.
Yes, University of Miami, and I just happened to get an audition. I didn't even know where the track was. I'd never been to a racetrack. I'm a nice Jewish boy from the suburbs. And next thing you know, I'm at the track my whole life, playing stuff like this. Why, every Italian man who's had 3 Coors Lights has got to hear that. and then treat me to his favorite line from a movie he's seen 120 times. And then after he delivers the line, "They got Sonny," then they all high-five each other like they're masters of the universe. I like the movies too, but I'm not that carried away with it. But you know,
what is the most requested backyard tune beside "Happy Birthday"?
I would have to say it's "My Old Kentucky Home."
which is so funny because here we are in New York, and yet.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful song. It's a beautiful tradition, as is the Maryland, My Maryland, and Sidewalks of New York for New York, and New York, New York. There are great traditions in racing, and for 170 years, this is one of them. The reason they do this is because horse racing started 100 years before television. The fans didn't know where the horses were. You play the horn, now you know where the horses are. Now you run up to the window, you hand a stranger your money, they give you a piece of paper with losing numbers, then you yell at a little Hispanic man to hit a horse with a stick. Gotta love it.
What's the difference between this and the actual bugle you play leading onto the track? The bugle.
This is a regular trumpet. This is actually my best horn. It's a box strat. I had it custom done. Anyway, the long one at the track I play without the valves is called the coach horn. That goes back to when they used to deliver mail on a mail coach. And they would make a signal. People would go to a designated spot to get their mail. The houses were too far apart. They would kill the horses if they went door to door. The other one is a long one with the valves. That's called the herald trumpet. They're all the same length of tubing. You know, I studied trumpet. I studied 2 years with Vince Penzarella at the New York Philharmonic and 3 years with Gil Johnson, the principal trumpeter of the Philadelphia Orchestra. And I get asked the same stupid questions every day. Do I work here? Here's a clue. My work ID. That's the first clue. The second one is I'm there every day playing the horn. And then I get asked, do I do this professionally anywhere? That's a good one. Was I in band when I was a kid? That's good. Am I there at Belmonte? No, I do this 250 days a year. But on Belmonte, they get someone good, not me. You know, so, you know what? You have to have a sense of humor to walk around. Right? I got the horse right here. His name is?
Paul Revere.
Paul Revere. And would you believe it? No one has gotten this right. It's Paul Revere, Valentine, and Epitaph. No one can get that right. Google it.
Or rent the movie. Rent Guys and Dolls. Sam, the whole environment, talk about the moments that stay with you the longest. We had so many fun times when I had the barbecue. You'd come before the track opened. We'd set you up with a chicken sandwich.
Well, you were always gracious and generous with the barbecue. One thing that most people don't know is for many years I would go to you and say, okay, today is the Jim Dandy. What should I play? Okay. Then you say, I'll think about it. Come back for a sandwich later. I'd come back and he'd say, Yankee Doodle Dandy. So I'd go out and go, you know, I do Yankee Doodle, and then the call to the post, and then you'd come by and high-five me, and then, you know, 2 weeks later I'd say, it's the personal ensign, what do I do? You'd say, the victory march from Aida. Personal ensign never lost. So it was very helpful having somebody feed me what to do.
We had some fun ones. We had some clever.
Yes, I'm going to play.
Things that were subtle.
You made me love you for our last race, and to be perfectly honest, I love the people in Saratoga. I couldn't love you more than I do, and that's why I'm going to play You Made Me Love You, and I mean it.
Remember, there was also the years when you would come and call to the post for the Rick Lang, the New York City.
Yes, I did. For
Howie.
10 years, Harry Tesher, Rick Lang, and Drew Malika. And what most people don't know, we had the brilliant Mitch Levitas as the camera guy. One of the funniest person. You ever want to like spit your drink out of your nose?
Funniest people on
Spend 5 minutes with Mitch. But they would be screaming at each other all the way. He'd be counting down 5, 4, 3. Now I'm getting ready to do my ditty to open the show. These three are screaming at each other. They're hungover, and they're screaming all the way to the last second every time. And then Rick would say, don't play Moondance. Moondance sucks. You know? And I'm looking over like, God, you know, we're live on TV in 2 seconds. Can you let me do this?
You know what we miss too is your days as El Magnifico.
On Thursdays I used to do a mariachi thing at Leon's. I'm friends with Roberto Leon, the great jockey, for 25 years. Yeah. And he asked me, would I come by once a week and do some shtick? So I went by dressed in a black shirt. He pulled a black sombrero off the wall that he got in Mexico, and I started doing this. And he said, well, what are you going to call yourself? And I said, El Gringo, Fantastico. I'm a lover of many women and I fear no man. And when I enter a room, I am the alpha male. And he said, could you just call yourself Sam?
El Gringo Fantastico. There we go.
Roberto had a point. I saw him yesterday. He was practically crying. He gave me a hug and, said, I'm going to miss you. And, I gave him a little of this just to calm him down. How do people leave the house without one of these?
It's a good question. Or a kazoo, at the very least.
Oh.
So what's the game plan? What's the game plan after Monday?
The game plan is, this is what Jews do. We find a pretty girl, we marry her, we go to Florida, and then she tortures us for the next 30 years. Okay? I'm doing it just right.
The way they wrote it up.
I met my wife in college. She was an opera singer. She sang Colliature, which is above soprano. She sang comic opera. And I saw her in Così fan tutte, and I just had to have her. So I dated her for 2 years, my college sweetheart, and then they were wealthy, and her father said she couldn't see me anymore because I couldn't provide her lifestyle, blah, blah, blah. So she did a master's in mental health counseling. Clearly, we're putting that to good use. And then she did a law degree. She's been a divorce attorney for 21 years. Obviously, my second divorce, much smoother than my first. Thanks for that. And we started dating 6 years ago, and the first date, I knew I'd made a mistake. I should have spent my whole life with her. I'm grateful for the 2 kids and the life I had before that. But Laura is who I should be with, and that's who I'm going to be with.
Sweet. How are your boys?
The boys are great. Aaron graduated Binghamton with a degree in math, and he's going back for an MBA. Maurice is halfway through a mechanical engineering degree. He did an internship at a power plant this summer. I'm very proud of the boys. Maurice wanted to be a musician. He wanted to go to the University of Miami the way I did. And I told him, you could have a full scholarship, and you're not going. And yes, I'm a hypocrite. But I don't want him to do what I was doing when I was there.
I hear you. Well, the boys are wonderful, and
thank you.
Saw them grow up, and
you know what? You don't give children a choice. You have to be polite and nice. And when people ask me about the jockeys, and it's such a great honor in my life to have been around them, they ask me what so-and-so is like. I said, well, just look at the kids. Ramon's kids are polite and nice. They come up and shake my hand every time. Sharon says, how are the kids? How's your wife? Well, you want to see what the guy's like? Look at his kids. And then you'll see what's what.
That's really nice. Really nice.
Sam, we got to wrap things up, but on behalf of everybody that has been in the stands and enjoyed your work, we wish you great good fortune going forward, and have a good last couple of days at the meet. And stick around for a second. We're going to wrap things up here, but we'll let you play us off.
Okay.
And this is the end for us also, Steve. So wrapping things up on Loose on the Lead for this summer, and I think it's been a good summer, right?
Yeah, it's been a wonderful summer, and if you missed anything, and if you're going to miss us in a couple of weeks, you can go to YouTube and you can watch the whole season over again, about every 3 weeks, and that should carry you through till next July.
Yeah, that's not a bad.
Although him, you can see like 7 days a week. I mean, he's like Mr. Rogers.
I am the face of
Go TV.
So again, we
the Lucy Show. He's like Bill Fraley a little bit. He's right.
Fred Mertz.
The Benny Hill theme song.
So we'll wrap it up for this season on Loose on the Lead. I'll be back in tomorrow morning to wrap up the entire season here. But yeah, I'm coming back one more day. Enjoy the races this afternoon, and again, Sam, we'll let you play us out. Good luck going forward.
Yeah, I'll give you one last shot.
We'll see you next time. I hope you enjoyed our Saratoga season here on Capital OTB TV as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. Hopefully you enjoyed the recap shows as well, and there were good memories of that 40 days of racing. We'll see you next season.